Today on episode number 489 of the School of Podcasting's Morning Announcements, we're going to continue our discussion of looking at a podcast from the top to the bottom. We're going to get into the meat and potatoes. And we've got a Because of My Podcast story from Jason Marshall. Hit it, ladies.
The School of Podcasting with Dave Jackson.
Podcasting since 2005. I am your very own personal podcast coach, Dave Jackson, thanking you so much for tuning in. And I'm going to date this podcast as I record this. It is the week of Thanksgiving here in the U.S., and I just want to take a second to say, hey, thank you so much for tuning in. I deeply appreciate it. It's been a fun weekend for me. I actually moved into my own apartment, and yesterday set a record. I had over 25,000 steps. So I'm a tired little camper. And I spent most of today unboxing stuff. Still am just surrounded by boxes. So we're going to have kind of a shorter show today. But I wanted to touch base and see how things are going. And also want to remind you, if you look at the calendar, you have just a few days left to get in on this little project that I do every year. Now, you can find this at schoolofpodcasting.com/favorite. Now, what is this? Every year, the last episode of the year, I basically take your submissions, whether you're a podcaster or just a listener, go over to schoolofpodcasting.com/favorite, introduce yourself. If you have a podcast, tell us a little bit about it and where we can find it. And then let me know, what is your favorite podcast and why is it your favorite show? That's really what I want to get into. Why do you like the show? What does it do for you? That type of thing. And I take that information. You don't have to transcribe it. I've had some people transcribe theirs. That's awesome. Thank you so much. But I will pay to have it transcribed. I'm going to put it into a book and put it up on Amazon. It's a thing I do every year. And so you basically record it once. You're going to hear it on this show. You're going to have it put into a book as well as a link on the website back to your website. So I say this because I don't know if I've explained it wrong this year or something. Submissions are down. Yeah, I'm being straight up honest with you, transparent. So if you haven't done this, now I realize this because we're all busy about this time of year. That's why I actually started this at the beginning of November, because I know Libsyn has a contest going right now where you can win a year of free hosting, and there might be a gift in this for you as well. Just saying. It's supposed to be one of those surprise things, but there might be a gift in it as well. So if you're interested in this, and I realize because I didn't send in my thing to the Libsyn thing because I just didn't. I've been busy packing stuff, so I realize you're busy, but it'd be great. It's great exposure for you. Go over to schoolofpodcasting.com/favorite and let me know what is your favorite podcast and why. And I should probably say this because we've had a couple people do this. It can't be your show. Like, I can't say, hey, this is Dave Jackson from the School of Podcasting, and my favorite show is the School of Podcasting. Just a little too, again, we're looking for the why. And if you say why, because I can't get enough of myself. Nah, that's not kind of what we're looking for. But do it now, because it's come the end of November. We don't take any more submissions because then I'm turning it into a book.
This podcast is part of the Power of Podcasting Network. Find it at powerofpodcasting.com. Changing the world, one download at a time.
Speaking of things I love to hear because of my podcast stories. And today we have one from Jason Marshall from We Don't Have Cookies. Take it away, Jason.
Hi, Dave. It's Jason Marshall from the We Don't Have Cookies podcast with a Because of My Podcast story. What I'm about to say isn't to brag, but it's to give a little context to the end result here. In March, I was a guest on a radio show to promote some upcoming stand-up shows that I was doing. The show went so well that I was invited to be a writer on a local TV show, and I was asked back to the radio show multiple times. I sent a message to a fairly known podcaster thanking him for helping me get over my nerves of being on the radio by calling into his podcast a few times in the past. He was so touched by the way everything went with the radio show and the TV show that he included my message in a book that he had published in June. Again, I was asked back to the radio show multiple times, and at this point, I was the most asked back guest in that show's history. The DJ liked the fact that when I would be on the show, I would put my portion of the show up on my podcast feed. In September, they asked me to be the co-host of the show, not just because we had great chemistry, but he liked the fact that I had a place to archive his shows. So because of my podcast, I am now the co-host of the radio show that got me not only on the radio, but on TV and in a book. If you'd like to check out the radio show that I'm talking about, you can go to wedon'thavecookies.com and find the Life episodes. Those are all radio clean podcasts. The others are rated explicit. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, and many others. Thanks for having me on, Dave.
Thank you, Jason. Again, find him over at wedon'thavecookies.com. And so today it's going to be a really short show because, number one, if the show sounds a little different today, I'm actually recording this with my Audio-Technica 2100 instead of my Electro Voice RE320 because it's in a box somewhere labeled Studio that I can't seem to find. And I'm using Hindenburg Journalist today as opposed to Adobe Audition. So I don't have quite all the Uber compression in Big Bottom and all the other stuff. So I'm not using my DBX. This is just me going into a computer. So if you ever wonder what it would sound like, yeah, this is a $60 microphone and a $99 piece of software that makes it super easy. And right now, I need easy. So we've talked about looking at a podcast from top to bottom. And this has basically been not how to start one, but once it's up and going, now what? So we talked about the first week. We talked about the importance of your titles of your shows. Now, I call those headlines because that's basically what it is. But I actually have a free resource for you on that. If you go over to schoolofpodcasting.com/headlines, there's some free tutorials. There's some great resources to check out. Get that over at schoolofpodcasting.com/headlines. And then last week we talked about we go all in on our intro. And in some cases then it's one of the things we're going to be talking about today is getting to the point. Now, last week, I did an iTunes kind of roulette. I just went in and randomly pick things. Now, there were a couple things when I listened to the show, and you listen to your show, right? When you're done, you should. And I listened to mine I try like 3 or 4 days after I put it out. Now, I always listen to it on the way up as I'm uploading, but I always try to listen to it with a set of fresh ears. And a couple things. Number one, those were people in new and noteworthy. Yes, just a little bit. Just threw up in my mouth, just a little bit. New and noteworthy is awesome. It just, trust me on this, don't expect a huge spike from that. Some people get them, many people do not. But, these were people that have made it into the coveted new and noteworthy list. And yet, in some cases, A, they hadn't put out podcasts in years. B, they were using SoundCloud and you couldn't even get it to play. And then C, their audio quality was horrible. So I don't know what that says about new and noteworthy. Kind of looks like they'll let anybody in, maybe. And one show I played their intro that went on for almost 4 minutes before they got to the point. And so today I've talked about the book Secrets of Dynamic Communication by Ken Davis. This is the guy that does the SCORE conference. And I've always boiled this down, and I've always said, before you press record, you should ask yourself, what about this topic is going to impact my listener enough to have my listener wanting to tell a friend? And I'm going to be going over, I found a show that I listened to, and I kind of reverse engineered it because it does a lot of things really well. And I'm going to put it under a microscope, and I'm going to point out what they're doing and how you could do this as well. So always, there are two ways of learning things. One is by doing it wrong or watching somebody else do it wrong. And then the other one is watching somebody do it right and try to incorporate their process into your very own unique one. And so I've always said, if you go, well, I don't know what's really going to make my audience jump for joy, maybe you shouldn't press record. Today I almost didn't press record because this is such a short show. I usually have multiple segments, and we just have this one. So here are a couple quick questions to ask yourself. Do I have a clear objective about this topic? In other words, do you know what you're going to talk about? Do you And if you're wondering, how do I get that crystal clear kind of objective? Well, it's by knowing your audience and by knowing what they want to hear or knowing what they need. And the only way you get that is by hanging around your audience. You can guess, but I don't know about you, but you're probably busy. I'm kind of busy. And when you guess, you might have just wasted hours of time putting together a podcast that nobody cares about. So then once you figure out what you're talking about today, so I have, as I record this, these bullet points that I'm basically breaking down into more expanded knowledge today. So my second bullet point is, what points do I need to make my objective? So we figured out what we're talking about. In other words, what are the things that you don't want to listen to later, 4 days later, and go, oh, I forgot to mention this? Kind of brainstorm with yourself and make sure you know what you're going to talk about. The other thing is, so many times we get hung up on what the audience is going to think about us. Are they going to like the way I do this? What are they going to think about this subject? Think about them instead. Don't get hung up on you. I know you're nervous, maybe it's a new thing to you. Think about how this information is going to help your audience. Think about how it's going to entertain them, make them laugh, whatever it's going to do to them, inform them. But then here's the one that, to me, I just hear over and over and over. I was just listening to Michael Stelzner's Social Media Examiner show, and he was talking to a guy that's big on YouTube. Now, this is a YouTube thing, but he was saying how you have 8 seconds to make a first impression with people in video. That might be a little different in audio, but nonetheless, we have very little time to get to the point. And that's why we said last week, your show intro should explain who you are, what the show's about, and what people are going to get from listening to your show. So as I record this is the week of Thanksgiving here in the States. And I remember when I was little, I'd go to my grandmother's house. And it's one of my fondest memories because the way my grandfather's house was laid out, they had the living room, which was a decent-sized living room, and you would kind of walk through this little, I don't know what it was. It was just a place where, a hallway, but it wasn't. It was basically, it was the part between the living room and the dining room. And they were all kind of almost the same width, kind of, but the dining room took up half the size of the living room because on the other half of the dining room was the kitchen. So you would walk through the kitchen, into the dining room, through the little walkway, and into the living room. Well, when all my relatives lived in Ohio, we would grab every table available, and it would go from the dining room through that little walkway and into the living room, and then we'd have like a poker table for the kids, not to play poker, but to eat on. We ran out of tables and chairs. It was awesome. It really, really was awesome. And I remember doing that, and I would walk in, and I would smell the food, and it was like, oh, awesome. And then they'd have like little munchies like crackers or something, chips maybe, something to kind of give you something to eat because you were just like, oh, I want to eat, I want to eat, I want to eat. And I don't know about you, but I came there for the turkey, and more importantly, I'm sure every household has something they're like, oh, like on my mother's side, it was Aunt Janie's fudge at Christmas. At Grandma's house on Thanksgiving, it was homemade mashed potatoes. When I grew up, my mom made potatoes from a box. You ever had those? Like some sort of weird potato flakes, and she mixed it with milk, and when you got real mashed potatoes, you're like, wow, I don't know what I've been eating, but that sawdust in a box mixed with milk is not really potatoes. And it was the same at Christmas. I would go in, and my grandfather, right, we're all like, oh, here's the tree, and you'd start shaking boxes, and they would tell you, don't do that, don't do that. And before we could open presents, I had to listen to my grandfather read the Christmas story from the Bible. It's a tradition we've had in my family. It's a tradition that my father continued, and then my brother continues in his family.
And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. And this taxing was first made when Shireen, let's...
Then when he would get to the end of the story, and my grandmother would belt into a song, usually Joy to the World, which was hilarious because my grandmother was not a great singer, but man, she had lungs. She would sing it loud. And then finally, once the Christmas story was over, we got done singing a few Christmas carols. Finally, we would get to open the presents. And you're like, Dave, these are great, heartwarming stories. What the heck does this have to do with podcasting? Can you think of anything that you like to wait for? When we're in traffic and you have to sit at a red light, when you're at the grocery store and there's somebody in front of you and they have 37, mountains of coupons, or they're waiting for a price check. I don't know. We don't like to wait. It's a microwave society. So not only should you have an idea of what you're going to talk about, and it's not just an idea, hopefully it's something that's going to impact your audience, but get to the point. Now, today, I used a personal story to help explain the point of getting to the point. And that's my opinion, how you should use personal stories. I could tell you that I had a plain fish sandwich for lunch because I can't find the tartar sauce. But does that really do anything for you? No. Now, if I could talk about how, and let's talk about this subject. This is an audible. This is where Dave runs out of notes. So, warning, warning, warning. Keep your arms and hands inside the ride. One of the things that moving does, and I think we've all been there probably, done that, move from one place to another. And one of the reasons why we hate it is it forces you out of your comfort zone. I don't know where anything is. I know I put it in a box. I know I labeled it. I told them to put these boxes. I don't know where. Okay. I know there's a green folder that has my address and phone number on it. It's here somewhere. And so I know this morning when I woke up in my new bedroom, it was weird to wake up and have no idea where I was. It took there was a good 2 seconds of what? Because the nightstand is now on the left-hand side, not the right-hand side. Everything was just weird. And so moving forces you to get out of your comfort zone. And then what happens? Well, you dig through all the stuff. You find a new way to do stuff. Oh, wow, now the napkins are on the right-hand side, not in the junk drawer is now behind me, not on the right-hand side next to the fridge. And eventually, this will be the new normal. And that's really how you can kind of look at podcasting. You're moving. You're moving into a position, like Jason was talking about, that people can find you, that might open doors for you, that might help you find like-minded people, that in some cases, if you want to, might bring in a few extra bucks. But you do have to go through that uncomfortable time because you're like, oh, I don't know. I mean, right now I'm uncomfortable because I don't have Adobe Audition going. Right now I'm uncomfortable because I'm not running this through my DBX 286S, so I don't have the big bottom sound going. But it's okay. It's okay. And it's a start. And from there, you just go one box at a time, right? And then eventually, I took 6 empty boxes to the trash this evening. And when I get done recording this, I'm going to put more. And you just go one box at a time. You just go one step at a time. So don't worry about the thousands of people that might be listening to you, because guess what? When you first start, you don't have any. It's okay. We all start there. And then eventually it'll grow and grow and grow. And guess what? What made you feel so uncomfortable? Because we heard Jason talking about how he felt uncomfortable. You get over it. And then doors open. And friendships are built. And relationships are built. And opportunities. When you deliver value, right? I always want to say, when you deliver value, opportunities will come about. And I think I'm going to wrap it up with that. And I do want to thank you so much. Don't forget, schoolofpodcasting.com/favorite. Do it now. You can call it in, 888-563-3228. You can, I prefer not email because I want to play this. I want to hear it from you. And if you go over to schoolofpodcasting.com/favorite, there's a spot there. You can use SpeakPipe to call it in. You can, if you've already recorded it, you can just upload it. I got a folder right there for you. And that is the call to action for this today. I'm not asking about if you want to join the, nope, this is the project I'm working on right now. Now, I've had people ask me, is there going to be a Black Friday sale for the School of Podcasting? Well, there has been the last couple years, so why break tradition? I'm going to try something new, but you'll have to come back on Black Friday to see that.
If you like what you hear, then go tell somebody. If you like what you hear, then go tell somebody.
Let's throw in one bonus content. This is Dave riffing off the top of his head. Remember how we say try to do something unique? I turned on the TV yesterday. I think it was. Yeah, it was Friday. And here came a car dealer that said, hey, we're doing something different this year. We're going to do Black Friday 1 week early. Black Friday starts today. Black Friday, of course, being the day after Thanksgiving where all the shopping happens. Guess what? Next commercial came on, and it was for some tire dealer, something like what? We're crazy. We've started Black Friday early all month. You can blah, blah, blah. And so everybody, even Amazon, is doing Black Friday sales early. When everybody else does it, it's just not that special. And by the third time I'd heard somebody go, we're breaking the rules. No, you're not. When everybody does it, it's really not that special. And so I highly expect before I die, we'll have Christmas sales at Halloween. So be unique and stand out. And thanks so much for listening. Enjoy your time with your family. And for those of you that don't celebrate Thanksgiving, eat some turkey anyway. It's a good source of protein. So thanks for listening. Take care. Until next week, class is dismissed. Take care and God bless. Hope to see you on the inside.